Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to the Connected Wellness Podcast. I'm Rachel and I'm here with the lovely Marianne, and we are so passionate about wellness.
Here in this podcast, we look at the ways our physical, emotional, and spiritual health is all connected and how we can take better care of our whole selves holistically so we can live our best lives. We're really excited that you're here with us on the journey.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 53 of the podcast.
Yeah, we're 53.
So we are here. It is about to be February when we're
hmm
recording.
hmm
Yeah, how's it going?
January has been a time, y'all.
Yeah,
Put it in the comments of how you're feeling.
yeah.
We are here with you. We are trying to figure it out with you. We are praying. We are in it with you. So yeah, it's been a doozy. It's been a
Yeah.
doozy, but believing that February will be hopefully a bit better. And Valentine's Day and Black History
Mhm.
Month, these are all lovely things that we celebrate at Connected Wellness. So I'm looking forward to some
Yeah.
happiness in
Yeah.
that regard.
Well, January just feels like it's lasted a few years. Like
Yep.
I just feel like, yeah, it's been a long month. It's been a long winter.
Yep.
And we still have some winter to go, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you see it. But yeah, I think we're going to talk
Mm.
about this idea of winter. And I don't know, have you heard the term wintering as a verb?
I don't think I have. I don't know. I don't think I have.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about this idea of winter and kind of winter as a metaphor for different seasons of our life and
Mm.
kind of how we can make the best of it and approach it maybe in a healthy way. So, yeah, I think it's a perfect timing. We just came off of like the coldest stretch that we've had and I don't know how long here in Pittsburgh. And it's
Yeah.
so it's really like I felt this like deep in my bones, and that's why I was like, we need to talk about this. This idea of wintering. Yeah. Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
it'll be good. I think there's definitely
hmm
something to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's been chilly in New York and then it got really warm the other day. So I have a hunch that wintering is a concept we'll be able to hold on to when it's winter, but also maybe in other seasons. So I can't wait to learn
Correct.
about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, let's start with some wellness wins though. You want
Yeah.
to start?
Absolutely. I'm happy to start. So, this is a combination of physical health and spiritual health. Um, I think I shared here that I had a knee injury and I've been like in recovery from it, doing physical therapy. Cool. I stopped physical therapy a few months ago. I basically like plateaued, and he
Mm,
was like, you just got to keep doing the exercises at home and that'll like get you there. And I was like,
yeah.
okay, so I'm gonna stop coming in. And so I've been doing the exercises at home, at the gym. I've been pretty consistent with it. I fell off during the holidays, but I'm back on. And the other day, I was in the train station and I was going up a set of stairs and my knees didn't hurt. And I was like, I was like, it's happening. It's happening. I was like, I don't feel pain. And I literally look up like in the ceiling. I'm like, Lord, thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And then I like had to keep walking because it's New York. And I was like, God, I am so grateful that I'm starting to like see more and more progress because it's
Yeah.
yo, like I could not go upstairs, maybe past like step three without it being like searing pain. Like I
Ugh.
was always looking for the elevator or the ramp, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I can't be doing this. So praise the Lord for healing for my 34-year-old knees. I'm very grateful. And I'm like, cool, God, we've come this far. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep
Yeah.
going. We're gonna keep going for the pain relief. So that's my wellness win.
Yay, congratulations. I'm happy to hear that.
Mm.
It's so satisfying, like when you've been working on something for so long and then to have that moment where you're like, that's it, it's working. Like something,
Yeah,
what I've been working for is finally happening. So that's really
yeah,
exciting. Yeah. And I love that that immediately became a moment of gratitude.
yeah,
Yeah. Celebration and
yeah,
gratitude. That's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. Ugh, we thank God. We thank God for that. How about you, married to the Ann? What's your wellness win?
So, we were in Florida last
Mm.
weekend, to visit family, and like I said, we've been dealing with a lot of cold here. So we were like, woohoo, we're gonna visit Florida, but we're also gonna hopefully get a little break from the nasty weather.
Mm.
My favorite thing, one of my favorite things in the world is being able to walk on the beach. Like that makes me so happy. um, and feel so peaceful when I get to walk on the beach and feel the sand and the water. And
Mm.
so that was all we're looking forward to. Um, but the forecast was not having it. We were just there for the long weekend, and it was supposed to like rain all day. One day it was supposed to be cold, but we were like, okay, we'll just see what happens. We'll make the best of it. So I
Mm.
was like on my weather app like it was the most important thing on the world, because the second that there was a break in the weather, I was like out there. I was like, I'm going to the beach, like, because luckily we were staying right on the beach, and it was funny. Like people were like, wait, you're going out now? I'm like, yes, now is the time. Like I have 45 minutes until the rain comes. And so I really feel like I made the best of it. I was out there,
Yeah.
yes, with a rain jacket and my hood and a sweater and all this stuff, but I got to walk on the beach. I got to enjoy the moments that the sun came out. I got seashells.
Mm.
I got, to do the
Mm.
things that I love to do. And I really needed it. And I felt, like very thankful that it wasn't exactly what we wanted, but I got those moments of joy and peace that I was looking for.
Yeah. Good for you, girl. You were like, I'm gonna make this happen, and I am going to
Uh-huh.
utilize my resources to make sure this happens. Weather app, we're doing this. So
Yeah.
good for you. You were determined, you know what you want, and you're like, I can make this happen. I can be
Mm-hmm.
adaptable and flexible, but I'm gonna still make this happen. So I'm really
Yep.
happy that you got to have your moments on the beach.
Thank
That
you.
sounds
Thank you.
so
Yeah, it was
lovely.
really nice. It was lovely. And again, and like seriously, whenever the weather is like that, and then like all of the sudden the clouds part and the sun is shining, like that joy almost makes it
Mm.
worth, the hours
Mm.
upon hours, days upon days of crappy weather, because like if it's just nice all of the time, you don't appreciate it anymore.
Yeah.
So that made me notice it so much, and I was like, oh, you just like so beautiful. So yeah, that
Yeah.
that was some gratitude experience for me too, just having those beautiful moments. So yeah,
Mm.
that was my wellness win. So thank you, Florida, for the little bit of nice weather that you allowed us to have. Yeah, we've had some difficult trips. We went to California a few months ago, and same thing. It was like colder there
Mm.
than it was here, and I was like, like, why are we doing? Yeah, so it's all right. Okay, we take the we take the glimmers when we
Mhm.
can get them, I think. But yeah, thank God.
Yeah. Ugh, I'm glad that you were able to make that happen, girl. Hopefully
Thank
there's
you.
warm weather coming soon, even though I know there's probably not because it's February.
I mean,
But
it will come. That's the point. It
yeah.
will come. Spring will come, maybe
Hmm.
not very soon, but it will come. Winter always ends. I think that's something important for us to hold on to if you're struggling through this season. But
Yep.
let's talk about this. So,
Mm.
winter as a season, obviously, like we're just saying, it's cold. It's also dark, right? Like,
Mm.
we thank God already passed the winter solstice, so now we're on the up. Days are
Hmm.
getting longer, but still, overall, it's much darker. We don't see the sun as much. It's cold. Um,
Mm.
Now that's a physical season, a natural season, but I think that it's very metaphorical. There are times in our
Mm.
lives, situations in our lives where it feels very dark and cold and something is going on, right? We
Mm.
could be grieving, we could be dealing with just some sort of struggle, illness, difficult relationship, whatever it is. And there are
Yeah.
these times, these seasons in our life, and they come and they're inevitable for all of us, right? We all may
Yeah.
have different types of seasons like this, but they definitely come, right? And so, this idea of wintering, which by the way, I'm getting this from this book, Wintering here by
Mm.
Catherine May. We're happy to link it if anybody's interested. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful book, like part memoir, mostly memoir, but like about this idea of how to deal with these difficult times in our life. So it's going to happen to everyone. And like, I think it's our natural instinct to just want it to go away, right?
Mm.
Like to maybe just travel to a warmer location, right? In the winter, or just to like try and fast forward the clock because I just need this season to end.
Mm.
Um, but I think that can make it more painful, right? When we just
Yeah.
try to make things go away and we don't take the time to maybe see what is the wisdom that can be gained from this season, what is the insight that can be gained, and if we allow ourselves to feel the coldness and the darkness and what
Mm,
it means to be in this winter season, um, we can be more graceful and allow ourselves um, to experience it in a more healing way, right? That is
mm.
more gentle on ourselves than trying to just like push it along. I don't think I said that very eloquently, but we'll try again. Do you know what I mean?
I know what
I'll
you
try
mean.
again.
Yeah, I mean you can try again. I support you in doing that. But I when I'm hearing from you and there's like a feeling that I'm getting of just like cozy, let's lock in for a little bit and like that's okay to do that.
Hmm.
Um and I like that wintering is not, it seems like it's not just like associated with like the actual season, but you were saying
Hmm.
how there are other seasons that just require us, other times in our life, other things we experience, just require us to really like hone in. I'm thinking of fasting. For a lot of folks who do fast, they tend to be like, this is a time I'm kind of doing like a little shut in, with like me
Hmm.
and God. Still gonna go to work, still gonna do the things that I need to do. But there's a sense of just staying put intentionally that we don't necessarily do in other seasons.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah, the intentionality part of it is huge.
Mm,
So, like, if you think about nature, okay, like
mm,
animals and plants and whatever, they have no choice but to deal with winter. Of course, the tree is stuck where it is, and the seasons will change. But the tree, like, does not try to live like it does in the summer in the winter.
mm, mm,
The tree shuts down all of the non-key essential parts, right? And it conserves energy, it conserves resources to be able to withstand the season. Animals
mm,
do the same thing, right? Animals who hibernate, they prepare for the season, they conserve energy, conserve resources. So it's kind of the same thing for us. When we're dealing with this season of difficulty, we look inward and we are able to be more intentional about how we expend energy, right?
mm,
About the use of the resources that we have, right? Because our resources are limited, especially
yeah.
during a time of difficulty. Our energy is limited, things like that. So basically, this time of wintering, it asks us to be more careful with our energy, more intentional about how we spend our energy, how we spend our time, and maybe just kind of invites us to rest a little bit until spring. Like the time is
Mm,
coming where spring is coming, where it's time to be bright and grow, right? A season of growth. And now's not the time, but that is coming. So just rest a little bit until that time.
mm, I like that. It's embracing what's actually happening and
Yeah,
in in finding ways to enjoy it instead of just like rushing through the season to the season that you actually want or that you're actually looking forward to. I like
absolutely.
that. There's a sense of
Yeah.
like, oh, let's like deal with reality. Let's like be in this moment and let's still like enjoy things. Like, yes, it's cold outside. My husband hates cold weather. I don't mind cold weather like that, but I'm also from upstate New York, so maybe that's why. Um, but he hates it and I'm like, dude, we get to like stay in and chill and like our heater is on and we get to like watch movies and read and
Hmm.
just kind of like decompress a little bit. So I wonder if looking at it that way could help us more instead of just like being disgruntled throughout the season and just it also just puts so much pressure onto the season that we are looking forward to. And then what if that
Yeah.
season doesn't live up to that because our expectations are so high because we're so desperate to get out of the season that we're in right now. Like, what if we
Oh,
just
yeah.
embrace where we are and
Yeah.
understand that this is a reality?
Yeah.
So I will turn on the heater and I will do this and I will do that.
Right.
So I
I
like
think
that
that
idea.
what you're saying is so valid for, like, I'm thinking of some difficult situations that people might be in. So what if you're in
Mm,
a period where you're single, right? And you're looking for a relationship and you just keep thinking, well, I'll be happy when I'm in a relationship. I'll be happy when
mm,
I'm in a relationship, right? And then like you get into a relationship and it's not this magical fairy tale thing that you've been expecting all this time, right?
mm,
Like that's very disappointing, like you said, and discouraging versus if you kind of embrace the season that you're in, and what are the things that I can do in this season, and how can
Mm,
I enjoy this season, how can I take care of myself in this season, and what can I do as a single person to make the best of the next season, right, when I'm
mm-hmm.
not a single person. Or same thing if like you're in a time where maybe you're out of a job or you don't have the job that you would really like, right? If you just keep saying, oh, well, if I just get that job, if I just get that job, everything's going to be fine. You're completely missing out on the growth opportunities, of where
Yeah.
you're at now, and dealing with where you're at now. So I totally agree with that. But it's hard. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, I'm thinking about Brandon hating the cold. I also hate the cold. It's really hard because you go outside and like it hurts to be outside. So it's hard not to be disgruntled. And think about that too. Like sometimes stuff just really hurts. If
Yeah.
you're in a season of suffering, it hurts all of the time and you can't just tell myself to stop hurting,
Yeah.
so what do you think about that? What can we do to help ourselves just kind of accept where we're at, accept that it's a
Mm,
natural part of life that we have these seasons of winter that are dark and maybe lonely and cold, um, but they don't last forever. But how can we
mm-hmm.
do that?
Yeah, it's making me think about our conversation we had about control. And there's only so many things we can control, and there's a lot of things, slash, pretty much
Yeah.
everything that we cannot control. And once we embrace that, the pressure to be happy all the time just kind of comes off. It's like, yeah, like I can be sad today. That's okay to be sad. That makes
Hmm.
sense, right? If we think about wintertime and if we think about the science of what is happening. The sun is not out
Yeah.
as much. It's cold. You're not getting out as much. People literally will feel sad because they're having lower vitamin D and all of that. So it makes sense. And I think embracing it instead of running away from it and then finding support in that. So it could be like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
feeling sad right now. Let me tell a friend. Maybe I
Hmm.
just want to have a conversation with a friend so I can vent about it. Or maybe it's difficult for me. A lot of folks have seasonal affective disorder during various seasons. One of those seasons is when it's cold outside in the wintertime. So maybe it's I'm having a difficult time cooking. Can I ask a friend to
Hmm.
like drop off like a few meals for me? So asking
Yeah.
for support for the things that you need and you're not able to do for yourself in that moment, I think is really empowering and powerful. And I think also not being ashamed that you feel sad. Like
Yeah.
it makes sense to feel sad if you don't have a job or if you don't have the job that you want. It makes sense to feel sad that you are not in a relationship if you want to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And from a Christian perspective, we also want to be careful about those moments or those things and those values because the enemy can really trick us into like magnifying those things and being like, well, your happiness, it's in money. Your happiness is in your identity as like a married person. Your happiness is in your, all of that. But as Christians, we know that it's joy that we embrace, which is more than
Hmm.
happiness and it's internal, it's not external. So it's difficult. And I think that's why finding support and being honest with yourself is really helpful. And finding those glimmers, kind of like your Florida example, you found a
Hmm.
glimmer of like, I will go to the beach, even if it's for 5 seconds, even if it's not as warm as I want it to be, I
Yeah.
can still be out here and appreciate it. So
Yeah.
that's, I don't know. It's not easy. It's not
Yeah.
easy at all.
Yeah, yeah, but I think what you said of accepting where we're at has to be the starting point, right? Because
Mm,
it's almost like, again, if we keep looking at this metaphor, winter, the season, and winter, a
mm,
time in my life, but like if I refuse to admit that I'm cold in the winter, right? Like if I go outside, it's 20 degrees, and I'm just like, no, I'm not cold. Like that's not going to help me. Like if I say, yes,
mm-hmm.
I'm cold, I'm going to put my coat on, my hat, my gloves, my scarf, right? And I'm going to try to do what I can do to stay warm. So it's kind of the same thing. Like if I'm going through a
Yep.
difficult time and I refuse to say I'm going through a difficult time, then I will never get what I need to be better in that moment. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's important. And actually, I will admit, as usual, I'm just telling you everything. Lately, sometimes I'm struggling. I've been struggling
Mm,
with a lot of stuff. And so I will tell Chris, he's really the one that gets to hear this, but I should probably be telling more people. I will tell him I'm struggling. Like I'm really
mm,
struggling today for X, Y, and Z reasons, or sometimes I don't even know why, but I'm just struggling. And that's the first step because as someone who wants to support me, he tells me, well, what can I do to help?
yeah.
And so that has to be the first step. Like, if you think about
Hmm.
it as obvious as like me saying, I'm not cold when it's 20 degrees out, then that's so ridiculous. So it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Like if something is making you feel like you're in this difficult season, like just admit it to yourself, number one, right? And to the people who can offer you support,
Hmm.
number two. Yeah, like community is by far the most important thing. I don't think we can stress that enough. Like whether your
Mm-mm.
community is
Hmm.
one person or an entire church or it includes professionals, like we need to have some sort of community that we can fall back on. Yeah.
Hmm. That's a good point. I do like that analogy a lot because I think that analogy highlights one of the hardships in us getting support, which is pride.
Mm,
But like when you're cold, like it's like, yo, it makes sense that you're cold, right? No
yeah.
one's like, oh, your body's so weak. Oh, you should
Right.
know better. It's like, bro, it's literally 20. Like there is nothing
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do to not be cold in 20 degrees. Like this is literally like not my fault. And I think
Yeah.
that goes into one of the reasons why we don't ask community is because we tend to blame ourselves first or we tend to think that, oh, I did something wrong, so I am deserving of this. And then I don't want to admit that to somebody else. Even if you did cause
Hmm.
it, you can still admit it to other people. If you have
Hmm.
like psychologically healthy and safe spaces, you should be able to admit that you did something wrong and receive support and growth in that. You shouldn't
Yeah.
receiving like toxicity or yelling or stuff like that. So I think that's one thing that we can also keep in mind is there's a sense of normalcy in that people will typically feel cold. It's not because
Yeah.
people suck, it's because 20 degrees is cold. And so we do
Yeah.
something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So we all need to understand and encourage one another that going through these seasons is a natural part of life. It
Yeah.
is not because you are weak that you are going through a period of sadness or struggle or suffering or whatever. It is natural for literally everyone. Every person in the Bible, right? If you want to talk about that,
Hmm.
has had a season like this, right? And we read about how they've overcome that
Yeah.
season, right? Because of their relationship with God and because of the grace of God. And so, yeah, that's number one. Like it is natural to go through winter. Like the
Yeah.
world must go through winter. The earth must have its season of winters. It's like part of the cycle, right? The
Yeah.
cycle of the time and the year and the seasons. Um, I think though we can sometimes be prepared a little bit. Again, just like you
Mm,
can prepare for winter, just like animals prepare to hibernate, you know, what is our preparation? I think it's maybe taking a inventory of our resources, right? And realizing like, okay, if I need to narrow things down, hone in, like you were talking about, be more intentional, like what are the things I can let go of? What are the things I
mm,
can delegate? Like, what is most important to me? We had an episode about priorities, and I think that's a big one. Like, if you can
mm,
narrow it down to like what is your most important top two priorities, then when times are tough, when times are lean, like in a winter season, like you can kind of let go of the other things and hopefully rest and give yourself grace that it's okay that I'm letting some
yeah.
of these things go for a season, right? Not necessarily forever. That's basically what we did when we took a couple months off from recording, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean this is not important. That doesn't mean it's not a priority. It's just like right now, like times are a little bit tough and I need
Mhm.
to prioritize. So that's I think part of like preparing for the inevitable winters that will come.
You're taking off the judgment and you're assigning accurate value to that item or that thing. And I
Hmm.
think that's very powerful because in the world that we live in, we learn very quickly, and it's just everywhere, that the values that we assign to things and the meanings and the associations that we assign to things are actually different than what God wants them to be. And so if we assign too much value and meaning to money or pride or greed or any of these things that's emphasized by the world, we're not actually going to be filled, and we're not actually following Christ the way that we are called to follow Christ, and we're not glorifying God the way that we're called to glorify God.
Yeah.
So rather, what I'm hearing from you, and I think is a really great idea and a great like takeaway, is making sure that we're assigning that thing the proper value. Our podcast is awesome. We love it so much. Taking a break doesn't mean that it's not important. It means that
Mm-hmm.
Marion and I need to winter, that we need to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's a labor
I
of
think
love, y'all.
we were wintering before I knew what wintering was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
learned about this idea of wintering after we took that break. What? But that I think tells you that it's a natural thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that this idea in this book is just like labeling it and maybe reminding us that it's
Yeah.
okay to do it. You know what is a humongous part of this for me and probably for a lot of people is
Mm.
self-compassion. Like you
Mm.
can only do this if you have compassion for yourself. If you're
Mm-hmm.
like, it's okay to slow down. It's okay not to do all of the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is so difficult for so many people.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to ask you, Coach Rachel, maybe let's put you in the coach role right now. Like, how can we increase our self-compassion?
Mm. Mm. Wow. Um, you're making a really great connection in seeing how giving yourself compassion can allow you to do things that are healthy for you, such as
Mm-hmm.
wintering.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm happy that you connected those dots. We can give ourselves more compassion in a few different ways. One, being in spaces that remind us that we are worthy of compassion. As people who are social, even those of us that are like not as social, we are still social beings. And so that means that we are impacted by the people and the things around us. And we also impact those things and those spaces and those people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm in spaces where I don't believe, or I'm receiving messages that I don't matter or I don't deserve compassion, then I am going to believe that myself. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one, thinking about the people that you're around. What are the messages that you're holding on to? Are you holding on to messages that are just not healthy? And a big part of that as Christians is asking yourself, what does God say about me? Right? This
Mm-hmm.
is, if you're a client listening to this is probably a homework assignment I've given you, is look at the Bible or even just Google it. Google, what does God say about me? And whatever is difficult for you to believe about that, that's an area to be like, okay, God, there's something here we need to unpack. But if God is saying this about me, and I believe that what God says is true, then that means that I am worthy of compassion. So
Yeah.
from like a logical, step by step standpoint, I think that's one way, right? So being in spaces, and as Christians especially, making sure that we are really embodying what it is that God says about us. I think another big part of it too is wondering what makes it difficult to be compassionate towards ourselves, and then actually doing something about it. So being in spaces is great where you are loved and all of that. You can feel very loved, but also there's inner work that you need to do yourself to
Yeah.
actually believe what it is that people are saying and what it is God is saying about you. And so it's like, okay, let's say you're reading a Bible verse and you're reading I am fearfully wonderfully made, right? We all love that song, and you read it and you're like, that's very difficult for me to believe. Well, I don't believe that because I don't like where my body is right now. Okay, so that tells me that I've attached too much value, slash, even potentially sinfully valued something too highly, that it's
Yeah.
impacting the way that I view and even care for myself, right? And the reason why I say sin is because this is not condemnation. This is just like we're humans, we will sin. That's kind of like what it means to be a human, unfortunately. Um, but the reason why I highlight it that way is because you are looking at yourself, who is an image bearer, and you are looking at yourself, an image bearer, in a way that is out of alignment than how God tells us to look at image bearers, that is a sin. When we do
Hmm.
something that is out of alignment than what God wants for us. And so, not giving yourself compassion, not treating yourself as an image bearer of God, that's
Yeah.
actually a sin. And so, if we think about it that way, it's not just some cheesy thing, but it's actually like, yo, there are like spiritual implications for this. And it's like, wow, well, if God sees this and views me and created me, with so much value, but it's hard for me to see that. Oh gosh. And I'm actually like committing a sin in doing that. I'm not saying you lie about it and be like, okay, God, it's all good. You'd be like, God, like, I
Hmm.
give this to you. I repent from this. What is it that makes it difficult for me to believe that me, where I am in, I don't know, my knee injury right now, that I am less deserving of your love? Right. And that's
Hmm.
a conversation to have, because somewhere in your life you learned that love is conditional in some way. We all learned
Hmm.
that because we live in
Hmm.
this world. But
Hmm.
God is unconditional in his love and in a lot of other things. Praise the Lord. So that was a very long answer. But I think doing the work in that. And then there's like the small things you can do every day for yourself. So affirmations, it's every day you say one thing that you're grateful for. Those things are still powerful, but those are actions, and if the root of the problem has not been addressed, then the
Mm.
actions, they'll seep in, but they're not going to seep in fully because
Yeah.
there's still that core that needs to be tuned into. Does that make
Yeah.
any sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does make sense. And I think too, like, again, taking action, like, okay, if I want to increase my self-compassion, I'm going to do something compassionate for myself every
Mm,
day, and maybe start to realize that, like, it's okay, because I might be reluctant because I think, oh, this is too self-indulgent, right, for me to take this, half an hour of rest, or to say no to this obligation, whatever it is
mm,
that I'm doing to show myself compassion. I might think that, like, I can't go on like that. But the more that I
mm,
practice it, the more I do it, I'm gaining evidence to show that, yes, I can. Actually, when I took this time to rest, or I said no to that, the next day I was way better. I was feeling so much better and stronger and energetic to do the things that I needed to do. So that's like, building this case for self-compassion, that I gain all
yeah,
of this evidence, right? Data. I love data to show that it is a good idea, right?
yeah.
The self-compassion, and anything that we practice more and more and more, we get better at, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So yeah, I think that that makes sense what you said. You made me think of something though. I'm trying to see if, oh, what you said, okay, if God says that he loves me just the way I am, and it's hard for me sometimes to know that because we're used to conditional love, like you said, right?
Mm,
So I've heard this before, that, like, if God says you're good enough, you're worthy, you're valuable, but I'm saying no, I'm not, then that's placing myself as a higher judge than God, right? Like,
mm,
that's wild. Like, God
mm,
says you are worthy, and I say
mm,
no, I am not worthy. Then that means, again, that I am a higher judge than God. And any of us that are Christians would say, no, that's of course absurd, right?
mm,
So God's way, God's judgment, God's opinion is infinitely more valuable than mine, right? So if God
mm,
says you're worthy, right? And yes, I might need that reminder every single day,
uh-huh,
to get it to sink in. But I just need to keep realizing that that is the truth, right? What God says
mm,
is the truth. I also love, and I hear this from a lot of people and professionals, that, like, every thought that I have is not true, right? Just
mm-hmm,
because I think that I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of compassion, doesn't make that true.
mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm.
know that the devil is a liar. And so he likes to implant those lies that are going to screw with us and make us
Yeah.
suffer, and yeah. So, but that, to me, that idea of being a higher judge than God always hits me
Mm,
hard, right? It's the same thing
mm,
about like forgiveness, right?
mm,
So God says that he will forgive us our sins if we confess them, right, and we repent.
mm,
But if I don't forgive myself, then again, I'm a higher judge than God. And
mm-hmm.
so I think it's the same idea.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, you are hitting on one of the most difficult aspects of being a Christian, which is as Christians, we are not the center of our lives.
Mhm.
We are not. And that's one reason why it's very hard for people to understand Christianity and be in it. And I feel y'all. I feel y'all. It is very difficult to say, God, you are the center of my life and you are the Lord of my life. I
Mhm.
am not the center of why I do things. I am not the chief decision maker. I have thoughts and I have ideas, but at the end of the day, I sacrifice them to you. And I humbly submit them to you and you let me know what it is. And so I appreciate you highlighting that because when we acknowledge that being a Christian is hard, that's when we actually see real growth and real prayers and real
Mm,
people building community because we're not just putting on our like, oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. God is good all the time. God is good. I'm great, sis. Like that's when it's like, nah, like I'm actually kind of struggling right now.
mhm,
And God meets us there. And
mhm.
hopefully his community should meet us there too.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you highlighting that. And you also highlighted, I don't know if you realize this too, but you also highlighted another important aspect of consistency, which is doing the thing every day. And
Mm,
so, y'all, I wish I could just wake up and just not have to consistently go to the gym for my freaking 34-year-old knees. I wish that I don't have to consistently eat my fruits and my vegetables and my fiber and all of that, but I have to. Right. And so, just as I care for my physical body that way, I also have to consistently do things for my spiritual health and consistently
mhm,
do things for my mental health. So I
mhm,
consistently engage in gratitude. I consistently say, hey, babe, I'm struggling today, right? Can you say something that you're proud of me for? Because I don't feel like I'm doing anything that's worthy of any purpose in this world.
mhm,
And so by doing those things on a daily basis, not just as needed, because as needed means we have to wait to go to zero, even below zero. We shouldn't have to wait to go to zero or below zero. We do
yeah,
these things consistently so that we build a strong, for my Pentecostal friends, a strong spirit man, or just like basically just a strong, like spiritual sense in a spiritual
yeah,
core.
yeah,
So I,
yeah.
I think that that is really key, the consistency piece as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, part of the wintering idea, one of the suggestions is having rituals. Having rituals kind of
Mm-hmm.
grounds us. And whenever we are sometimes so lost because of the difficulty that we're in, it kind of gives us something to do without having to think too much about it. Something, not just something to do, but something that's good for us, right? Something
Mm,
healthy to do. So, speaking of the season of winter, like you mentioned, it's nice to be able to turn on the heat and get cozy and, do this. So if you can design some sort of warming ritual, right, during this
mm,
season, it might help us deal with actual winter and also this metaphorical winter seasons. So it takes a lot of introspection, which I know we talked about in our last episode of like figuring out what is it that I need. But
mm,
if I take the moment to think, what is it that I need and build that into my day to day,
mm,
right, as a way to support myself during a difficult time, right? So even if it's something so simple like, you know, maybe I'm not feeling well physically and I know that I need to eat, nutritional foods, right? So it could be part of my rituals to make sure that I have these nutritional foods on
mm-hmm,
hand so that I've food prepped, even if
mm,
it's the most basic thing. Like, and so this is a thing that I don't have to think about. This is how I eat during the day to make sure I support my body right during
yeah.
this difficult season. So it can be very simple things like that. It can be more fun and cozy things like, cuddling on the couch with a warm beverage after a long day, when it's cold
Mm,
outside, like little things like that. Obviously, prayer can be part of the ritual that can be
mm,
very, nourishing spiritually to us and mentally. So, yeah, there's a lot of things, but it does make us go back and say, what is it that I need? Right. We have to answer
mm,
that question, I think, before we can design these rituals.
mm-hmm. I love that. You're giving yourself something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's so nice. Like for people who have a difficult time waking up early, that's Rachel. Um, when we like do things or schedule something or have something happen in the morning, that helps us get out of bed earlier. Because I'm like, I have something to look forward to. So I actually do
Hmm.
want to get out of bed.
Hmm.
And so I think that's very powerful, especially just where we are right now in the world. Doing things that is healthy for us is like very crucial because there's a
Hmm.
lot of stressors that we're experiencing. And so I think this is a really great way to make sure that we're tuning into our needs. I'm into this. I'm into wintering.
Yeah.
I like it. It's cool.
But you're still waiting for spring though, right?
Kind of. One, spring in New York is not actually like that long. It's like 5 seconds and it makes me
Yeah, and
very
then it
sad.
gets hot and gross. Yeah.
And so I hate hot
Yeah.
weather.
Hmm.
I have seasonal affective disorder in the summer because I
Wow.
hate being outside. It is
Yeah.
so hot, it
Yeah.
is so sticky. The subway, Lord
Mm.
have mercy on my soul. Those subway tunnels, you will not see me outside. My friends know this. If you want to see me in the summer, it needs to be in an air-conditioned space or after 8 p.m. Just
Yeah.
FaceTime me. Just
Yeah.
FaceTime me. My face is the same. That hasn't changed. And so I think I'm kind of looking forward to spring, but I low key, I also love being like cozy and like, ooh,
Yeah. Yeah.
like let's cozy with some tea and a book, listen to lo-fi. So I think that's my bias.
It's just hard when you have to go outside,
Hmm.
on a daily. So yeah, there's a struggle because I'm with you. I hate the heat too, but I'm
Mm,
leaning more towards can I not see anybody for 3 months while it's cold? But it doesn't
mm,
work like, my life doesn't work like that. And I must be outside every day.
yeah.
No matter how much it hurts my face to get from my car to the building. Oh man,
Mm.
it's been a time here in Pittsburgh, and in most
Yeah.
of the United States, I think, has been going
Hmm.
through quite a winter. So,
Yeah.
so I just think this is very appropriate to think about, right? So
Hmm.
we are physically going through this actual winter season, but you may be going through a metaphorical winter right now, a difficult season. Um, if not, you've gone through them and or they are coming because again,
Hmm.
that is the cycle of our lives. It is a very natural and it's not helpful to pretend that it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
or to think that you are, yeah, less strong or less resilient or whatever because you sometimes go through these times.
Hmm.
I think the first thing, like we said, is just to acknowledge it's natural, it happens, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with me. Um, and then I can see what it is that I need that can help me get through this time. And then when I do
Yeah.
get through it, like we do become stronger because you
Mm,
realize I was able to get through this difficult time. And when you allow yourself, yeah, I guess maybe this is the last thing I'll say. When you allow yourself to what's the word? Retreat when you need to, right? To preserve those resources, to preserve that energy.
mm,
Whenever you do come out during the spring, you're like ready to go. Versus if
mm,
you were trying to keep going, keep going, keep going, when you had nothing in your tank, then you get to spring and you're going to collapse, right? You're not
yeah.
able to have that new life, that brightness because you didn't give yourself the retreat that you needed during the difficult time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that's spot on. Hmm.
Yeah. So everybody just give yourself permission today, even if you live in a warm climate, just give yourself permission to like retreat a little bit, to look
Yes.
inward, to preserve your energy. Times are tough pretty much across the board
Yep.
for people. We are stressed about so many things. So that's my takeaway is just again to try to increase the self-compassion, to just be like, it's okay, to not do all of the things that I always do right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great takeaway. I think mine is also similar. Especially as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs know that Q1 is like, okay, this is when you like do all of the things so that your Q2, 3, and 4 is like really great. And it's
Yeah.
like, I will do that and also listen to lo-fi and sit on the couch while on my laptop. So doing it in a way, wintering in a way that makes sense for you. If maybe the wintering feeling is coming, but maybe there's things in your life that's not allowing you to fully winter in the way that you want to.
Yeah.
But we would love to hear from y'all. What do you think about wintering? Was this the first time you've ever heard of wintering? Is that something you feel like you can apply to your life? We would love to hear from you. You can comment below. We do respond to all of the comments, even to the trolls that have been coming. Thank you for that, trolls. And then you also can contact us on a few different things because we're up to date. So we are on Facebook at Connected Wellness Podcast. We are on Instagram at Connected Wellness Podcast. If you want to reach out to Marianne specifically, you can reach out to her on Waba Saba on Instagram. If you want to reach out to me specifically, I'm on Real with Rachel Ann on Instagram. We also have an email. So if you want to email us your ideas, things you would love to hear from us, how much wintering has changed your life, we would love to hear that. That's connectedwellnesspodcast@gmail.com. We'll also make sure to include all of those links down below, including the book link that Marianne shared, the wintering book. We'll make sure to include that below. And yeah, I think I hit all the links. I
Think
think we
so.
did. Yeah. And I'll hand
Um,
it over to Marianne.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you can stay warm and be well until next time.
Yes. Be well, everybody. Bye.